Chapter 7. The Feminist Boomers. Though a distinct subgroup within political boomers, feminist boomers deserve their own special attention because they directly affect half the population, women. Additionally, in affecting half the population, you cannot help but affect the other half of the population, especially when you consider that men derive most of their joy, purpose, and meaning in life from women. Feminist boomers are also unique in that, like social scientist boomers, they adamantly insist they know better than nature, revisiting one of the premises of this book. And feminists in general are distinctively boomer, with most of the modern-day feminist leaders being boomers themselves, wielding incredible control and influence over millennials and young women today. But the real reason feminist boomers need to be addressed is that they affected what mattered most in both men's and women's lives: each other. And when you look at what they've done to women, you will see they have done an absolutely brilliant and spectacular job in ruining it for everyone. First, since many feminist boomers are also professor boomers, it should not be a surprise they also vampired off of millions of young Gen X and millennial women through the higher education industry. As a disproportionate number of feminist boomers are professors and teachers, they had a direct financial incentive to lie to women about the value of a college degree, especially in the farcical fields they were teaching, such as women's studies, gender studies, sociology, and the like. In intellectual honesty, there has been a more recent push to get young women to major in STEM, but for the most part, women disproportionately major in worthless studies, of which feminist boomers gladly promoted, impoverishing and betraying the women they claimed they were helping. Second, along the lines of convincing young women that education was of ultimate importance, they also convinced young women their related career was the same. It was their career in education that gave them value. It was their career in education that defined them. It was their career in education that mattered most in life. They succeeded so spectacularly that the single greatest feat of social engineering in history has been feminists convincing young women that work was fun, paying taxes was great, and commuting in traffic jams was a sign of success. That needs to be stated again. Feminist boomers actually convinced nearly every young woman in America that working, paying taxes, commuting, CPE, going into debt, and the commensurate stress that comes with a job was better than staying at home, raising kids, loving a husband, and maintaining a home. Again, this isn't to say women should not be pursuing careers or getting educations in fields that matter, nor is this to say women shouldn't be out there achieving their best. They absolutely should. But you cannot help but applaud feminists for achieving such an Orwellian task as convincing women that work was fun, if not the most important thing in life. Finally, for reasons that make no sense, feminist boomers convinced women to view men not as lifelong teammates who could be of mutual benefit to one another, perhaps even their greatest source of joy, but rather competitors at best, and oftentimes adversaries at worst. All men were sexists. Men controlled the patriarchy. Men had privilege. And men were keeping them down. This, of course, in the backdrop of some more extreme elements of feminism claiming men were all rapists, 5 in 2 women were being raped on campus, everything is sexual harassment, and even male nature itself was toxic. But there was a cost to believing in such propaganda. In convincing women their careers came first, that their education was most important, and that men were their competition, women gave up what traditionally gave them purpose and reason in life, family, in exchange for their careers and education. There is nothing inherently wrong with having a career, but the problem with careers and education, no matter how successful, is that these are things, not people. And things cannot love you back. The second you think your career is anything more than a job that pays you money so you can spend life with loved ones, you have missed the whole point and purpose of life. Further complicating matters is, what if women got married, had children, but deep down inside still followed the feminist boomer narrative and put themselves first? Still loved their careers more than their families? At first, this may sound an incredibly damning accusation. What mother or wife would love their career more than their family? But all one has to do is apply the same standard we do to boomers. Look at their actions. Millennial mothers seemingly can't wait to outsource their children to daycare because they, quote, have to get back to work. And women are just as prone to divorce their husbands today as their baby boomer mothers were in the past. And this optimistically assumes there's even a father present, as 43% of children are born out of wedlock today. Admittedly, we truly don't know what lurks in the heart of any individual, and no doubt, at some level, women love their husbands and children, but we cannot deal with what lurks in the hearts of men. We can only react to what actions are put forth in the real world. And such actions prove that, at least effectively, many millennial women do in fact love themselves more than their family. The ultimate price feminist women pay in loving themselves above all other things is 100% guaranteed loneliness. If you truly swallowed the feminist boomer Kool-Aid and believed you didn't need a man, you no doubt will be an amazing corporate attorney, a highly compensated doctor, or perhaps the director of a nonprofit. But amongst your shoes, your rescue dogs, and that timid mooching boyfriend you have in tow, you will not have any love. Only your career and solipsism. And if you're a successful woman who has it all, a life replete with a career, a husband, and children, congratulations, that's great. But if you wanted to have kids and get married, but never wanted to be a wife or mother because those duties got in the way of your career, you too will be miserable and lonely. Likely because you will raise dysfunctional children, alienate your husband, and dissolve the family through divorce. But even more bizarrely, you might have a loving family right there in front of you, but won't be able to love them in return because the office is more important to you. Regardless, if you didn't raise your children when they were young, don't expect nursing home visits when you're old. Expect to be lonely. Alas, deep down inside, this is what really motivates feminist boomers. Jealousy, misery, and fear. Feminist boomers had the opportunity to love someone other than themselves once. They had the opportunity to love a man, love some children, and raise a family. The problem with raising a family is that if you want to do it right, you have to put others ahead of you, and you really need to sacrifice. Children need a ton of work, love, dedication, and selflessness. Husbands also require love, maintaining your physique, support, and patience. Feminist boomers were simply too lazy to do any of this. But even more powerful than their laziness is their crippling fear of being reminded of what they lost out on because of that laziness. To realize that they wasted their entire lives making the wrong decisions and simply doubling down on it. They simply cannot stand to see younger women put forth the effort to get what they would not, and therefore they need to deprive and deny young women of any opportunity for happiness, love, success, and joy. They want young women to never experience love and be as miserable as they are. That is the ulterior goal of feminist boomers today, of which they achieved admirably.